Kate.
I'm Ebong.
And I'm Sonia.
And today we're dishing with you from the brand new Smith Commons, located at 1245 H Street Northeast. This is apparently a very healthy place to eat.
Very healthy.
They have everything on the menu. They have everything on the menu. And sparkling wine.
Celebrating their opening coming soon.
They have sparkling wine, and I'm drinking the Horse's Neck with Jim Beam Black and some other wonderful
I think
stuff.
about when I think about Ebong.
And we've given
the horse's ass, more like
mostly
it.
it's
We've given our guests, we don't want her to be nervous at all because she's going to talk to us about dating, right? So we've given her
dating stuff. We have Rachel Machacek, who has written this great book, The Science of Being Single. You probably saw her in Capital File, the 10 things to do to sort of attract a mate. And the reason I bring it up is when I looked at that, all 10 of those things I did just before I met my husband. So it totally works. You're totally right. So tell us about the book, the extended version. What do we learn in The Science of Single?
Well, the idea behind the book was to create a scientific experiment with dating for myself. It came out of a very bad date where
Don't they always?
Yes, it was inspired by a date where the guy ran away from me.
Why would anyone run away from you? Okay, what did you do wrong?
I feel like that night I was actually a pretty good date. He was a tough cookie. Like, I could not get him to smile at all, and we just
You probably dated my husband before I did, because that was how he was on my on our first date. Was like.
Yeah, he sort of had a sour grapes grimace the entire time, and I think I was probably trying a little too hard with him.
Well, hold on. So why were you on the date to begin with? Was it a dare?
Oh no, we met online, and I actually should have known it was probably not going to go very well because he didn't have a shirt on in one of his pictures.
Nice.
And that's generally
he is that guy.
So is that part of the science? You know that like 1 + 1 = 2, and you do not date men online that do not have shirts.
Or pants.
For me, yes. For me. I'm sure there are some people that's
your
important to them. Right. It is a deal breaker.
Is there a science to dating and to being single? Is that something like you should figure out the chemical makeup of it, if you will, before you go out and date?
No, there's no science in terms of the chemical makeup. I think it's more of a social science. And for me, what I learned in writing this book, I went in with the idea of like, I just want to know how to meet people. Like, what are the different ways of doing that, and what happens when you do? And I found going through this experiment and observing myself on these dates that there are a lot of other things that I wasn't doing right. Like, I had this checklist of the perfect guy, which is really nice to have, but that perfect person does not exist in real life. So it was kind of ditching some of those superficial
You hear that, women?
calls.
Pay attention.
So as we go into this new year, and I think a lot of people either are saying, this year I'm going to find someone, or I'm going to ditch that bad relationship that I was with, and I'm going to do something new. What can they learn about themselves and about their potential mates from this book as we go into the new year?
I think the biggest thing I hear from most people who are single is that they are not really open. They want a date and they want a relationship, but they are not open to any way of meeting this person. They're not open to online dating, or they're not open to actually just exploring the opportunities out there to meet single men and women.
When I was single and I was dating, I always took it as sort of a collecting stories of bad dates. So I was like, if a bad date happens, then
it's a good
more
story.
Good stories for me.
Right.
So do you think so you have to be open when you
there's a lot of those in here, by the way. Really, really good ones. Really funny ones.
So Helen, when you decided to do this, were you chronicling your dates to add to the content for the book, or did you already go through all this and say, you know what, I have a history of bad experiences, and I want to share them with the world so they can maybe learn from my follies?
I was chronicling the dates for this book.
Okay.
And so yeah. It was
but did that take away from you though in doing that though? Because for example, if you're going into a date and you're thinking, okay, maybe I like this guy, maybe I don't, but worst case scenario, I'm going to have at least a good nugget of information that I can use for my book.
I think that actually helped because you date because you're most likely looking for a relationship. So it's a pretty weighty expectation to put on a date. And I think I was going into it with that weighty expectation. So by sort of detaching myself from the process and from the outcome, by being this scientific observer, it allowed me to have a bit of a better time because I wasn't attached to what happened. I just wanted to see what would happen.
One thing that I really loved is that not only did you try different things like meeting people online or acting different ways, whatever, you also tried different cities. So you have Washington, D.C. versus other cities. Now, what did you learn about men in Washington, D.C.?
You know, I actually learned that men in all the cities were pretty much the same. Yeah, I know. I wish I had a better answer than that. But they all seem to be pretty much the same. I think, you know, in New York, they tend to be a little more stylish and creative, and the guys in the Midwest were, you know, very solid and hardworking, and the ones in LA, you know, were very fit and attractive. But ultimately, when you broke it down, I mean, everyone was pretty much the same. They all were focused on.
That is a surprise, though. I mean, other than the sort of the obvious, you know, how people appear and what would draw them to a major metropolitan city. But I would think that they would be very different from city to city, because I think women are different cities.
Women are different from block to block, city to city.
Well, I think everyone here, not just men, but men and women in DC are very ambitious and hardworking and somewhat transient. People are coming and going a lot more in this city. So that is a distinction for us.
Is this book more for men and women, or more for just women?
Well, it's a woman's experience, so I think that women will relate to it more than men. However, I think that men can actually get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I get some answers.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you understand, you know, why we think. I mean, I don't think I'm necessarily special in any respect. I think I'm pretty regular in terms of how women date. So I think men can read that, and maybe they won't really understand it, but they'll understand that this is just kind of how it is.
Now, I read the book. I loved the book, and then I was telling you earlier, I read excerpts of the book to my mother because I thought that it was so spot on. But so that people can learn not only about dating, but also about themselves, because I think what you really learned about this was about yourself.
Right.
Give us just your final few tips. Maybe it was even some of the ones that Sonya read in that magazine article, your tips for improving on yourself to learn to date.
Well, the number one is to ditch that superficial checklist. Just get rid of it. I mean, it's really hard when you have this idea for, you know, 20 or 30 years of tall, dark, and handsome. But
I exist.
And you are wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, not to pay for that.
And maybe you will meet someone who fits that perfect ideal, but then there are a lot of other men out there and women who could be just as good for you, and those superficial qualities aren't necessarily going to make the person. The other thing is to be open to the possibilities of how to meet these people. You know, go to singles events, go online and set up a profile. I got a matchmaker. I let friends set me up. I got a dating coach. I went to bars on a Friday night by myself and asked people out. I mean, I pretty much did everything.
Ooh, that's a bridge. I could never do that.
It was a tough one.
That would be a whole scary thing for me.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, though, is also to keep your expectations in check, especially for women. You know, it's like you want to meet someone, you want them to be the one, and then you go in with this like idea of like, okay, this might be it. And it's really just a date. A date is just a date until it's more.
That's right. A date is just a date until it's more. The Science of Single. Rachel, thanks so much for being with us. If you haven't read this book, it's brand new, just out now, as we are in the brand new Smith Commons. So we'll see you next time right here on the District Dish.
A good place to bring a date, perhaps.